It was early morning in the financial district, the kind of morning where the streets glistened faintly from last night's rain and the sun reflected off towering skyscrapers that symbolized money, power, and untouchable privilege, and inside one of those gleaming towers sat Hamilton and Sons Private Bank, a fortress of glass, steel, and quiet arrogance, where only the world's wealthiest felt entitled to walk the polished marble floors and sit in the leather chairs while sipping champagne as if banking were not business but royalty, and in that hushed cathedral of finance, where every step echoed and every whisper carried, a story was about to unfold that would shake the foundation of the institution to its core. She entered through the tall revolving doors, a woman in her early 40s, tall, composed, and carrying herself with the kind of unshakable confidence that did not need to be announced with flashy clothes or diamond jewelry, for her navy blue suit was simple, professional, almost understated, but her aura, the calm strength in her stride, the focus in her eyes, radiated an authority that no brand could buy, and though the receptionist smiled politely, clearly trained to treat every guest with courtesy, there was still that flicker of curiosity, as if trying to place who she was, because she didn't fit the typical profile of Hamilton and Sons clientele who usually arrived in chauffeur-driven Bentleys wearing designer suits with gold cufflinks. "Good morning, do you have an appointment?" the receptionist asked gently, her hands moving over the sleek computer screen, and the woman nodded once, her voice soft but resolute. "Yes, with Mr. Charles Jameson, at 9 sharp," and the receptionist's eyebrows lifted slightly, because appointments with Jameson weren't given casually. He was the bank's crown jewel, senior executive, known for managing accounts worth hundreds of millions, the kind of man who boasted of dining with oil tycoons and heads of state, the kind of man who measured his worth not by his character but by the size of the portfolios he controlled. And if this woman had landed a meeting with him, there had to be something behind her calm exterior. She was guided through security and into the inner sanctum of the bank, her heels clicking softly on marble floors, passing rows of employees dressed in perfectly tailored suits who stole subtle glances at her, trying to guess her story, until she was led to the corner office at the very end of the hallway, where frosted glass doors bore the name Charles A. Jameson, senior partner, and as the assistant opened the door, the man himself stood waiting, tall, middle-aged, with silver hair carefully combed back, wearing an expensive three-piece suit and a watch that cost more than a working-class annual salary, his face already curled into a practiced smile that wasn't warmth but performance, the kind of smile that had charmed hundreds of clients while hiding the sneer he reserved for those he considered beneath him. And as she stepped inside, he rose from behind his vast mahogany desk, extended his hand halfway as if to offer a greeting but then stopped, deliberately retracting it with a chuckle, muttering words that landed like poison darts in the silent air. "Oh, forgive me, I don't shake hands with staff," and in that single instant, with that single arrogant dismissal, he revealed the kind of man he truly was. Not a banker of dignity but a small-minded gatekeeper of prejudice, a man who had spent too long worshipping wealth and assuming he had the right to determine who deserved respect and who did not. She paused, blinking slowly, the insult striking like a blade but failing to cut, for her armor was built from years of such encounters, years of being underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked, yet she did not flinch, did not scowl, did not rise to anger. She simply walked forward with composed grace and took her seat, her silence far sharper than any protest could have been, because silence in that moment forced him to feel the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. And as Jameson sat back down, smirking faintly as if proud of his little power play, he shuffled a few papers on his desk and asked in a tone drenched with condescension, "So, tell me, who exactly are you representing today? Which client's account are we discussing? A new transfer? Some staff paperwork perhaps?" His tone suggesting that he had already decided she was nobody of consequence, just another face passing through his empire. But then she spoke, her voice calm, controlled, carrying the unshakable confidence of someone who knew exactly what cards she held. "I'm not here to open an account, Mr. Jameson. I'm here to close one. In fact, several," and the words made him glance up from his papers, a flicker of surprise darting across his carefully trained expression, because closures were rare here. Hamilton and Sons marketed itself as the bank that clients never left, the vault where money only grew and multiplied, not a place from which billions walked away. And so he leaned back, smirk returning, clearly assuming it was some mid-level account, perhaps a boutique business moving funds elsewhere, and he asked, almost laughing, "And how much are we talking about?" With an arrogance that implied no amount she said could possibly impress him, but then she reached into her sleek leather folder, pulled out a single sheet of documents, and slid it across the glossy surface of his desk with deliberate slowness, as though savoring the moment, and when he glanced down, his eyes scanned the numbers, the legal authorizations, the corporate seals, and most of all the name at the top, her name. Not as an assistant, not as a secretary, but as the principal, the owner, the signature authority, the CEO of a multinational investment conglomerate whose quiet acquisitions and discreet holdings stretched across continents, and the figure at the center of the paperwork was not 50 million, not even 500 million, but a staggering $3 billion in diversified assets, liquid, tradable, and ready to vanish from Hamilton and Sons books with her single instruction, and in that instant, the smirk drained from his face, replaced by disbelief, his throat tightening as he whispered, this must be some kind of mistake," his voice shaking slightly as if his very identity had been threatened, but she leaned forward, her gaze steady, her words measured, her tone soft but unyielding. "No mistake, Mr. Jameson. 3 billion. Today." And in that one sentence the balance of power shifted so violently it was as if the floor beneath him had collapsed, because the woman he had dismissed as staff was, in truth, the kind of client banks worshipped, the kind of client executives bowed to, the kind of client whose decisions could determine careers, bonuses, reputations, entire futures, and as the realization sank in, beads of sweat formed at his temple, his arrogance cracking like a facade under too much pressure, and he scrambled, fumbling for recovery, plastering on a smile that no longer held confidence but desperation, his words tripping over each other as he stammered, of course, Mrs. Williams, let us discuss this properly, perhaps in a private conference room, or maybe you'd like something to drink, water, tea, champagne." Offering suddenly the hospitality he had denied seconds earlier, but she only shook her head slowly, a faint smile touching her lips, not of kindness but of clarity, the kind of smile that said she understood exactly what he was, exactly what he had done, and exactly how to dismantle it, and she remained silent as the weight of his mistake bore down on him, because what punishment could possibly match the agony of realizing too late that arrogance had a price tag, and she was here to make him pay it. While the transfer papers were processed, whispers began to ripple across the bank floor, staff sneaking glances through the glass walls, watching their senior executive unravel in real time, pale, fidgeting, stumbling over basic words like a rookie, and though they didn't know the details, they knew enough that whoever this woman was, she had just delivered a blow to his empire, and when the confirmation finally arrived on his monitor, when the last of the authorizations were signed and the account balances hit zero, when Hamilton and Sons had officially lost $3 billion in assets in less than an hour, routed elsewhere to institutions that valued professionalism over prejudice, Jameson's once confident laugh was gone, replaced by a hollow silence, the silence of a man who had mocked the wrong person, underestimated the wrong client, and now stood ruined by the weight of his own arrogance, while she rose gracefully, collected her folder, and walked out the same way she had entered, calm, poised, untouchable, the quiet storm that had passed through and left devastation in its wake, and as the glass doors closed behind her, the entire bank seemed to know they had witnessed not just a transaction, but a reckoning.